Hiya guys, Nigel here, back with you with part 9 now of this big bad buff build or whatever it is. I keep getting it wrong, don't I? So here we are, part 9, and in part 8 we got the fuselage all glued together, and here it is. This is about, I don't know, about 12 hours after we did that, I guess. So still not ready for seam work yet. Going to leave it as long as we can, really, because the longer you leave it, the better. Basically, as I said to you before, one of the biggest issues is with solvent glues. I mean, you can use super glue to put your models together and not get any shrinkage or anything whatsoever, but your model will fall apart. If you use wild action glues like we have on here, and we've used quite a lot of it to get the oozing out effect, which becomes like its own filler, what you're doing is making a pretty hot gooey mess between two plastic parts, and as the solvents come out, everything will shrink. And basically, it's almost like when you use cellulose paint. If you've ever sprayed cellulose paint, you can paint a car bonnet or something and it will look wonderful. And then after a couple of hours, after it's dried and all the solvents have evaporated, it pulls down very, very tight and it dries from the inside out. So therefore, what you end up with is if there's any irregularities, any scratches or whatever in the paintwork, you didn't prep it properly, you didn't rub your primers down properly, as it pulls, when you first spray it looks lovely, and as it pulls back, it goes into those little imperfections and the sanding marks appear on the surface. That's the difference with like 2-pack paints, which is used commonly these days. I mean, there's a lot of water-based paints like these days, but you know, commonly a body shop would use a 2-pack paint, especially a 2-pack lacquer, and basically that stuff dries from the outside in, so it forms a skin, a beautiful glossy firm skin, and then it dries out. And it's like a resin. So that's the beauty of that one. That's why you can get away with, you know, rougher fillers and not have an absolutely perfect finish. But when you use stuff like cellulose that dries from the inside out, you need a perfect base to work from. And that's basically, I mean, I know I'm waffling, but that's basically what's happening here, is all the solvents and chemicals are evaporating out. So as you work on your seam and it's still not fully dried, or it's still, you know, wet inside, then as it dries it will shrink back. And many modelers will tell you that they've done something like this with a great big long fuselage seam, or, you know, 24 scale Spitfire or something, and they rub down the seam and they put some Mr. Surfacer on it, a bit of primer or whatever, and it's beautiful. And they look 2 weeks later and you've got a perfectly straight sink line. And that's why. Okay, so it's best to leave these seams as long as you possibly can. That's why when we first started, I went and did these tanks first. Now these have been about a week, so these seams will be lovely and hard and ready to deal with. These I did probably 18 hours ago, and we know that we've got a really good strong glue joint in there, because if you remember I said it was really quite flexible. I mean, I could squeeze it if I wanted to, but it's very strong now, so that's a good sign. So yeah, we've got these seams now all dealt with. Well, we've got these seams to deal with, should I say. But like I say, I'm going to leave them to go hard. I also want to thin out these trailing edges. If you remember, like I showed you on here, this section here is coming back lovely, and then all of a sudden the elevator becomes an almost rectangular block. So I'm going to be thinning that out and get a nice thin edge on there. That's far too thick, and I'll show you how to do that. So and basically another thing I'm going to show you is like pre-scribing, if you like, which is, you subscribe to the channel, you prescribe something, don't you? Basically what a lot of people will do is sand detail away and then they'll rescribe it. Well, with this, if you scribe it deeper, when you sand it, you don't need to rescribe it. You've got these guidelines to work with, so it's really easy to scribe that with a, you know, pen or a scribing tool or a pointed tool or anything you've got. You can scribe that as it is, and then when you sand it back, if you see the lines start to disappear or get very faint, rescribe it, do some more sanding, rescribe it, do some more sanding. So it's almost like pre-scribing, if you like. Now the other thing we've got with these is we've got missing vortex generators. So we've got, what's that? We've got 1 or 2 missing there and 1 or 2 missing. I've got one missing in each place. Now, if I was doing this as a sort of rescribe and, you know, convert it to a G and doing a full-on build, I would replace those. But this is an out-of-the-box build. It's a beginner build, so there's going to be no modification like that going on. I may do something just to show you how I get around it, but we shall see. And the biggest problem with it is it's not like what they've done. They've got 2 sprues the same, so they've made 2 tail plugs exactly the same, and then you just flip one over for the other side. Now that's all well and good, but the trouble is it's they're going to go like that, you see. The trouble is you've got one side has got these missing, and then when you turn it over, it's the other side that's got them missing, so it's a bit weird. Something else worth with noting with these models of old, you know, look at these attachment points. You've got these two great big semicircular pins here that are going to go into the fuselage, and then you've got these huge tabs that are going to lock together. Okay, so you've got that. It's going to be like that when it's actually in the airframe. It's going to be something like that with them locked together. So many modern kits these days would have a tailplane this big and have like two pins, 2 mil diameter and 4 mil long. You know, it's I was looking at that that AMK Tomcat I've got. It's got like a tiny little pin that holds the elevon. You know, it's crazy. So anyway, so there we go. So that's those there. They can wait to dry, and this can wait to dry. But I think we'll start this video with a little bit of seam work, and I'll just show you how to go about it. So we've got these tanks here. So we've got these tanks, and they're obviously round. We want to keep them round. So these are my sanding sticks I use, and not promoting anything here, but these are the ones I use. These are the Infinity Matadors, and these are fairly hard. They start at 400 grit, so really not very coarse, and they go all the way up to 7,000 grit, which is just like a piece of paper really, but ideal for polishing stuff. So they'd be good to work on this, but perhaps, you know, once we got the worst of it off, because 400 grit is really a bit too fine for starting on stuff like that. Then we got these zebra sticks, which come in a pack like this. They go from 100 up to 800. Now these are ideal for stuff like this because you've got the coarseness there, you've also got the flatness, and they're quite hard. And as I've said before, their downside is they wear pretty fast, but before you run away scared, they wear out, they wear down very quickly, but then they stay. It's kind of, they lose 30-40% of their abrasiveness in the first sort of 10 minutes of use, and then they stay like that. I mean, I've been using these on every model I've worked on for probably, I don't know, 3 months if I look back. I've been using them a long time, and I've got a fresh packet here, and I just don't want to break them open because I'm tight. But they are ideal because they're wide, they're fairly hard, they're flat, and they're ideal for breaking down this seam on here, which is where the glue is oozed out. They're ideal for that. Now, we've also got our soft sponges, which are perfect for finishing on round items. Sponges are brilliant, but they have their restrictions. Now, I'll show you something here. If I'm sanding on there, you can see that when I push the sander in, it takes that shape. So as I sand, it's rolling across the surface, and it will cover a wide area. So when you're doing this seam, it will stay in that round form, okay? It will give you that round form. But you want to get rid of the ridge of it first, because what will happen there is, and I'm going to get my piece of paper out again, sorry guys, I love doing my demonstrations, but you guys that are new to this, you need to be shown. So basically what we've got here is, that's what we've got, okay? I've just realised what I've done, get a pen that works for a start. Just realised what I've drawn, but yeah, so that's what we've got here, okay? Right, how childish of me. So when we look on the end, that's what we've got, and this is our seam, and we've got a split in the middle here, okay, and that's what we've got. So we want to sand it down, so we need a hard stick first to just break down that rough edge, and then we can work on the round. If we go straight in onto this with our sponge, what will happen is the sponge will round this off and it will sand in there. So exaggerated, you will end up with something like that. Okay, so you'll be taking material away from here and here and here. You want to break that off first. So what we're going to do, we'll put the sponges back, put the sponge back. What we're going to do is start off with this. This is a 220 grit, but it's more like a 400 really, I guess. And we're going to just take away this edge. And what I'm doing, I'm sanding on here. I'm not putting any pressure on. I'm just letting the stick do the work. And if you are new to this, a good, really good habit to get into. It's like when you take your driving test and you kind of start to lose those good habits. Try and get this habit from the start. Don't go in and start giving it like this. okay, because all you're doing is inducing heat. But the other thing is, when you're trying to sand something flat, when you go like this, you're actually exaggerating. You're doing this, and you don't tend to keep it flat. So if you were trying to sand, say, this square edge here, I would be tempted to sand in one direction. If you start going like that, exaggerated, you're kind of doing this. Okay, so it's good to sort of try and just file in one direction. And then the other thing to do on circular items is don't go across, go at 45 degrees. So just, if you can do this, and you can see that what I'm doing is turning the tank as I go, and I'm just lightly sanding to remove that seam. And I'm staying at 45 degrees, like that. There we go, you can see that seam disappearing. What I'm doing now is getting rid of any mismatch, so keeping it round. I'm not going to start going like this, because what I'll end up with then is a flat. I want to keep it round, keep it cylindrical. It's not cylindrical because of the shape of it, but it is a cylinder, if you like. Okay, so this is how we deal with seams. We'll do the same on the fuselage. I think I showed you the same on the wheels. And if we start to see a white line appear, that means we need to re-glue it. So that's something else I can show you. Now we've got a raised panel line on the back of there. I'm just going to remove it because it seems crazy to just have that one raised panel line on the whole thing. So we'll just remove it and not replace it. But we will do some panel line replacement on the fuselage. Some people have asked me to show them scribing. I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm not very good at scribing. So I'm not going to do a full rescribe on this one. This is a beginner's build, and I would never expect a beginner to start rescribing stuff. Yes, one day you're going to be doing that. Now you can see here we've got this white line. Now I'm not sure if, yes it is, you can see I can squeeze it. Look how see how it's flexing? Can you see that? That's where there's not enough glue. Okay, and unbelievably that's where I could get to the back of it as well. So what I'm going to do there is put some super glue in there, because I want to work on this seam, but if I go and put hot glue in there again, I'm back to square one. So I'm going to take some super glue, some thin, this is Zapsier brilliant super glue, all for bottles. So, and I'm just going to literally drop some in there and let it run down the seam. Okay, and that's run all the way up and down there now. So I'm just going to leave that there to go hard. I'm not going to put accelerator on it because I don't want it to get it all brittle and hot and everything. When you put accelerator in a large drop of super glue, you get a lot of heat. So just going to leave that to dry, and then we'll work on this one. Same again, sanding at an angle, sanding in one direction. And if you're using two coarser sticks, something like this is a 100 grit, but again it's worn. You know, you don't want to be ploughing in, just go gently. Letting the stick do the work, don't start putting loads of pressure on it. I'm glad I got that white line on that one, because it's enabled me to show you exactly what to look for. And then you want a piece of denim or your jeans. I've got an old pair of jeans here, and you can just wipe your sanding stick. And I've got a feeling I'm repeating myself on all of this, but I'd rather repeat myself than miss stuff out, you know, for the newer guys. Getting lots of comments from, you know, older modelers who've been in the hobby for years, and they're enjoying it, because sometimes it's good to go back to the basics. And I'm also getting comments of people saying they're enjoying me just putting a model together. So rather than all the bloody modifications and aftermarket and all that. Be careful not to sand too much off the tip of that nose, you don't want to ruin that. I also had an email today from I can't remember his name now, a guy in somewhere, I think it's Belgium or Finland he was from, and basically commenting about the accuracy of this kit, and he saw an old piece of documentation for it that basically said they had access to Boeing's drawings or something when they actually made the kit, so when they designed it. So that's pretty cool. But it also begs the question, doesn't it? If this kit is so accurate in shape and it's been around for 52 years, why did AMT come along afterwards and make something that was just a mess? It beggars belief. You know, the engine cowlings on this, on the D, are basically the same as the G without the little bulge on the side. So, and then they go and made the engines much too small. You know, and they got the back of the fuselage really skinny, and they got the dihedral wrong. It just seems crazy, and yet they got the wheelbase correct. It's really, really strange. So here's a 400 grit now sponge. So we can just, again, go along with this, and we can just wipe it over. I'm not going to go in there. What you don't want to start doing is going mad with it and, you know, trying to remove loads of plastic at the same time, because all you're doing is juicing heat, and that will make your joint soft as well. And there we go. That is that seam done. Okay, just a little bit of work there. Just want to take a little bit more off there. But what we've done, we've kept it round. There's no flat spots on there. Okay, and now what I can do is come along with a, this is a 1500. That's probably a bit too fine, yeah. No, that'll be okay. This is a 1500 grit. Be careful, the finer you go, be more careful, because you are causing more friction. You don't want to induce heat into the seam, because it softens the plastic and it will make it split. And then I'm going to polish. I'll come along with this one. This is a 2500, so we can polish it now. And believe me, once this is done, you won't ever know this was two pieces of plastic. But you see people start doing this, you know, it's not recommended. Just take your time and gently stroke it. Oh yes, you know what I mean, fellas. So we've got a polishing stick here now. Now with the polishing stick, you need to kind of work it out, because it's got so little abrasive on it. If you just do like I've done before, you'll be here all day. So you've got to get some work into it. But I'm not pushing, I'm just letting the stick do the work. Just sanding around like that. Okay. Now I wouldn't normally bother with this, because the trouble is having a nice glossy finish. You've got nothing for the paint to bite into. But there you go. Now you can see, you can see there's a sprue nib. But when we look at that close up, hopefully you can see. The camera can't even focus on it. We've got a sprue nib there, a sprue nib there. But you can see there's no seam. If the camera will focus, there's no seam there. Okay, it's just like one piece of plastic. Okay, so you can see on that side, that's what we got to start with. Okay, then we take the 400 grit. And you can see what I'm doing. I'm 45 degrees, I'm turning. I'm doing this with the sanding stick, I'm turning this as I go. Everything I'm doing is like a rotary motion. Or a radial motion, should I say. Okay, and then we're going to go in with the 1500. Just polishing the front of that pylon as well. So there's that. And then the 2500. And I'm just looking here, I've got a little bit of a seam there at the base of that pylon, so I'm just going to lightly sand that away. I think Jess is going to bark. And then we get the polishing stick on there. Once again, you can see on that top face, on the front edge of the pylon, nothing. Okay, see a couple of scratch marks there. You want to get rid of them because they will show through your primer. I've got a feeling, are these black? Oh no, they're black on the bottoms and camouflaged on the top, same as the fuselage. So and there we have it. There's your, oh, I've got to do the back end. So we'll go with our 400. I'm just going to remove that raised panel line because I don't see the point. I'll go straight in with the 2500 on this one. There we go. I'm sorry guys, I've got to go and I can smell something burning. I'm hoping there's not something in the house. I won't be a second. I've just sat here for 10 minutes or 5 minutes sanding this and talking to you all guys and didn't have the camera on. So right, that's that done now. Oh, and the burning I think must have been this, because as soon as I stood up I couldn't smell anything. So I'll tell you a funny story for a minute about burning. I'd been doing some welding in the garage one day, and after I finished I could smell this burning. It was quite a cold day, so I had a sort of quite a thick jumper on. It was an old jumper, and I could smell this burning, and I sort of thought, oh my god, you know, a spark's gone and set something alight in the garage, or something smouldering away, and everywhere I went I could smell this burning. I came out of the garage and I could still smell it, and that's a bit strange. So I came in the house to get a kettle of water or a jug of water or something, went back out in the garage and I could still smell it. This is crazy. And all of a sudden I let out this mighty ow! And what I'd done, I'd actually, a spark or something had gone up and set a hole in my jumper, and the sort of hole of my jumper that sort of had burnt, like a 4-inch diameter hole, had smouldered away and then burnt through my t-shirt and then burnt me sort of just below my chest. Oh my god, I felt so stupid. I had to chuck the jug of water over myself. And yeah, so bit of a funny story, that one. Anybody been watching a fly on the wall would have been laughing their head off. So there we go. Now what I do want to do here is use my favourite chemical, Mr. Surfacer, and I'm just going to cover again what I did there. So I used a 100 grit to break down the actual mould seam, then a 220 just to sort of smooth everything out, then a 400 sponge, okay, then a 1500 sponge, then a 2500 sponge, and then a 4000 sponge, and that's the kind of result you can get. And also a lot of this is all down to assembling the parts. Remember I told you about feeling for that lip and making sure that, if you know, looking end on down here, these are your two halves, making sure they go like that, not like that, not like that, not like this, like a lot of kits are. You need it like that. I think on one Will Patterson's build he did a B25 from Accurate Miniatures, and one side of the fuselage was bigger than the other. It gave him an absolute nightmare, as it would. And yeah, so that's something to look out for. If you get your parts perfectly round, perfectly lined up, you know, tiny bit of sanding, which is what I've done on here, you've just seen me do it live, you know, that's all it needs to get perfect seams. And as you can see, other than those 2 marks there, or there's 3 marks where the sprue nibs were, that's it. So I'm going to grab my Mr. Surfacer, and I'm going to use this one. I don't know if I've already explained. Mr. Surfacer, this is 1000. If you only ever buy one bottle of Mr. Surfacer, 1000 is the one to have. And what I'm going to do is just come along, take the lid off, keep the plastic liner, don't ever throw that away, because it does make it last a lot longer. And this is actually going quite thick, it needs thinning down a bit. But I'm just going to take a dab out, and I've got a brush here which I use for Mr. Surfacer alone, and I never clean it. You don't need to clean it, but as soon as you dip it back in there, the Mr. Surfacer dissolves the Mr. Surfacer that's dried. So I'm just going to put a spot on there. Now it does shrink back a bit, so you want to sort of put a proud lump in there, and then you want a proud lump there. And I think that was it. There's another little tiny indentation this side, and this really is being a perfectionist. I mean, this is a bottom of a drop tank, or a bottom of a tank, which is going to get weathered and everything anyway, but you know, so we don't really need to fuss about it, but I am. So There we go. And then what we can do then, there might be something there as well. We'll just put some over that just in case. But nothing on the top, I don't think. Nope. We're going to have to do some work here, I think, because we've got to step in the parts. But not sure if that actually hangs off the back of the wing when it goes under the wing. I'm not sure if that hangs out the back. We may have to do some seam work in there. So there we go. So that's that done. Okay, whoops, shouldn't let it turn over. So there you go. You've learned how to sand seams. So there we go. Just another quick thing. If you do want to see more work about seams and filler and stuff like that, if you look back about 2 weeks ago, just in case you're watching this sometime in the future, around about the first week of August, second week of August 2020, I put out a video about doing a fuel tanker from Skunk Models, and it was awful kit. And basically, in there, I do when I'm assembling the fuel tank, I talk about the seam and everything in there. It's a one-part video. It's all the way from start to finish, weathering everything. And yeah, in there you'll see me doing some work on seams with filler, and you'll see me having issues where I've used sprue goo and where I've got thick filler and thin filler and blah blah blah, and I explain it all there. So it's pretty good for the beginner, that video, just that sort of section of it. But if you are a beginner, that's not the sort of a model you want to be attempting. These sanders, by the way, they are Infini. If you're in the UK, you can get them from these guys, Premium Hobbies, who I promote all the time, to some people's dismay. But I like to, people always ask me where products come from, as I've said before. So if you're in the UK, these Infini sanding products, everything that Infini make pretty much, you can get from Premium Hobbies down in Weston-super-Mare. And if you use the code NMB10, Nigel's Modelling Bench 10, you get 10% off. I think in the US, Squadron do them, I think. But basically, wherever you are in the world, somebody will do Infini sanding products. But I do know that Premium Hobbies don't ship to the US. So if you're in the USA, then I'm afraid you've missed the boat on that one. Okay, so put these sanding sticks to one side. So we've got our fuselage, and we could work on the seams on that. But as I say, I want to leave it and let it go. Oh, one other thing while I think of it, if you remember, we had these horrible pot marks in these clear parts. So what I've done, I've literally with a toothpick put a drop of Tamiya X22 clear, this stuff here. Okay, I've put some on the outside to I've put some, sorry, cough, put them on the outside to sort of level them out, and you can see on that one where it's sunk back and we've got that divot reappearing. So the reason I've used Tamiya X22, it dries rock hard and it can be sanded. Stuff like Aqua Gloss, I find it kind of stays a little bit soft and can't be sanded as well as the Tamiya X22. So that's why I've done that. And I've also painted the inside of them black. If you aren't up to this stage yet, then paint them black inside, because basically what I found was from certain angles you look like that, you could see, you know, daylight through here, and then when you put it like this you could see daylight down through the undercarriage bays. I mean, you can look, I doubt you'll be able to see, but if you look up in there you can see through to the cockpit. There we go. I can't make you I can't make the camera see it, but yeah, basically, so because the wheel bars are just open, we were seeing daylight down through there. So I've painted the back of them black. I managed to get in there with a long brush and just put a brush down in there and paint them. So that's that taken care of. So yeah, like I say, we're going to let the fuselage seams dry. So we're going to grab our instructions, and we don't want to be working on those seams yet. We're going to see what else we can work on. I think maybe we'll make a start on the engines. Okay, so I've got the engine sprues out. We'll have a look here. So what we've got here is, these instructions are a little bit, I don't know what they're trying to say, but basically this is step 16 on the monogram instructions. The Revell instructions will cover the engines in a different way, I believe. I haven't looked yet. So here we go. So you've got version A, version A, version A. So basically they're telling you to build one version A and two version B. Well, I don't know what they're saying here. Or you could, so you can, I think this is easier to understand because there's words. Basically, I don't know why they've got this. They've got right inboard nacelle, left outboard nacelle. Okay, so basically you get an engine. That's what I'm trying to say. You get an engine here, and you can actually display your engine in the open position. So you can have one engine displayed open, and what they're saying here is left outboard nacelle, you can have the engine displayed. Okay, so basically you're using different parts to actually show the engine in an open configuration. Now I can't see in my kit, I don't know if they're missing or if they're in the, no, they're in the, there's these parts here which are different. So you can see, let me get this out. We've got, basically here we've got an upper and lower engine, top and bottom. Okay, so we would put those together, put this on the front, and then we've got our full engine. Here we've got this top half here, and we need the bottom half as well. So I think I may have that part missing. That part there, 81. Nope, there it is. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to put this together like that. Yeah. And then we'll have these. Jess has just heard something. And then we'll have the engine displayed with the cowling open. Okay, with the nacelle open. So you've got this piece here hanging down. Now, for some reason they're telling you here not to glue it. Well, if you don't glue it, I don't know how it's going to stay on there. But anyway. So basically, you can have an engine displayed. I'm not going to bother. It's a very, very simple engine. Not very detailed at all. So we won't bother. We'll just go with 4 closed engines. I can build this up and show you how it looks if you want. Okay, I will then. So I'll get these bits off the sprue, get them cleaned up, and then we'll build this up so you can see how it looks. Right, so I've got these parts here now, and basically this is the open engine. So I'm not going to be gluing the pylon on, and I'm not going to glue this cone on, and I'm not going to glue the front on, because we need those parts for our 4 engines. I'm just going to build a 4-engine pod, should I say. I'm going to build this with all the engines closed, but we'll just show you how this goes together. So basically we're going to just put some glue on there. No, we're not. What have I done that for? Because I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. That was a stupid thing to do. So basically we're just going to put this together just like so, and then we can come along with some glue, run it along the seams just like that, and that will capillary in. Okay, and if you've got the Model Collect H kit, you get an engine in that as well. I hope it's better than this one, although I fear it's probably not. So there we go, that's that engine held together, and you basically let that dry, deal with the seams, deal with the back end. And again, as we just said about the putting those tanks together, make sure everything's nice and rounded and lined up like that. Okay, and then we've got the little tiny cones going to go in the back like so. Okay, that little small cone, we just put that in with a drop of cement like that. Okay, and I mean, if I was building this properly, I'd be taking a lot more care. And then this is basically going to sit on there, on those 2 pins, I'm guessing. So, yep, so we'll put some glue on those pins. And then that's going to sit on there. And obviously you would be painting all this first. You paint all the inside of your door detail and everything. And then the lower half of the pod is going to sit like that. Okay, and then we're going to put some glue down that seam. Now on these engines, when I come to do them, I think I'm going to have to destroy all the panel detail, because I think probably the worst part of this kit is the engines. We're going to have to be adding plastic card. There's going to be a lot of sanding, a lot of filling. And they're going to take a while, so they're going to be kind of gluing them together now, and then in another couple of parts we'll start to work on the seams. And then basically this is going to hang underneath, sorry, that way around. So basically that would be the lower half of the engine, and that's basically going to hang underneath like so. So basically that would sit on a pylon and just hang from the bottom of the wing, and so you have that engine exposed. And this will go on the front like that. Okay, so that's that, like that there, with that hanging underneath. And then in this side you would have this other cone which should have a turbine on it, and basically that would hang underneath like that. So there's your exposed engine, but we're not going to be doing that, so We could keep those parts there, but we're not going to be using them. And obviously, as I said, I'm keeping these parts back. So I want to get some parts off the sprue, because what we're going to be doing is this engine here, which is basically top, bottom, couple of cones, and the pylons, which we've already done. We've got those with the seams drying. So let's get these tops together. So we need a 66 and a 67. Now these should always be the same. So that's 69 and 68. So we've got 66 and 67. Okay, so if we look at the wording on here, we'll see what it tells us. It's saying use, so for left, we want left outboard, we want. Okay, so left inboard, so that's engine number 2, using 66 and 67. Okay, so that's our left inboard. Right outboard is going to be 68 and 69. Left outboard is 68 and 69. So left outboard is number 1. Okay, so we're going to be using 68, 69. I think they're probably identical, but we'll do it as they say, because the actually mounting on the pylon may be different. They do look the same, but they may be slightly different. So we'll mark the engines up so we know which is which. And what we can do is, we can do that now. We will take our Sharpie, and on the top here, on the pylon, so 68 and 69, that's the left outboard. Left outboard 68, 69, so that can be 1. Okay, and then left inboard is 66 and 67, so that can be 2. Okay, and then right inboard, right outboard is 68 and 69, so 68, 69, 68, 69, so that's going to be number 4, and that's going to be number 3. Right outboard, yeah, right outboard 60, that's 4 and 3, so that's what we'll do. So basically 66 and 67 is 3 and 2, and then the other two, 68 and 69, are 4 and 1. Whew. You might have to rewind that and listen to that again, because it sounds a bit confusing. And I'm the one who's bloody saying it. So, and you know we've got our pylons. If you remember, we've marked our pylons up with a score mark down the inside of them. Here's one here, and it's got, you can see that's number 1, so it's got an indentation. We'll just check, actually, we'll just see if, yeah, it looks like it doesn't matter, you can get them all mixed up, because that fits on there perfectly. So, and it will also fit that one perfectly as well, I expect. Yeah. So there we go. So I'll get some parts off the, I've got the parts off the sprue. I need another tail cone. So we'll get that one off of there. Like that. So we've got another tail cone. So we've got the 2 tail cones, the engine front and the top and bottom. So that's all we need. Now I want to get these sprue nibs off of here. The same on this one. But I'm not going to worry about cleaning this seam up, because we're going to have some seam cleanup anyway. And also this area, the line is the actual split line for the, I think, is the split line where the cowling is open, so we're not going to worry too much about having a perfect seam, because we're going to be sanding it and everything anyway. So let's see how these fit together. Okay, now I've been led to believe that these are actually too small. So you can see we've got 2 nubbins in here and 1 nubbin in there, and this is great engineering again. It's so you can't put it together wrong, because that pin there gets in the way of that pin there. Okay, so you can't put it on upside down, it has to go that way. Okay, so that's really cool. And also we've got a lot of work to do around here. You can see this here, this should be a nice flowing line down here. If I put a straight edge against it, you can see the gap. Let's grab a rule. You can see the gap where there should be a straight edge, and there's like it's like a big divot, so we'll have to do some filling and sanding work in there. Now I've been led to believe that you need 20 thou plastic card because these engines are too thin, and I'm kind of looking at it and I'm thinking you don't, because the fit on there isn't bad at all. I mean, I'm gonna cut those pins off of there because they are stopping the right side of the engine coming up high enough. Okay, yeah, I can see it now. I can see where the issue is, but it's probably not 20 thou, it's about 10 thou. So what we're going to do, we'll remove these alignment pins because we're going to be putting plastic card in here. And what we're going to do is take some of our 20 thou plastic card, 0.5mm, and glue it on there. Okay, so I've got my plastic card here, and this is basically a sheet of plastic card. You buy it from eBay, Amazon, getting all sorts of places. Shop around, the prices tend to vary. Some places are a bit of a rip-off, but make sure you get styrene. There are some people out there selling sheets that look great, but they're actually not styrene, they're acetate or something, so the glues won't work with it then if they are. So you need to make sure it's styrene sheet. Now I would normally cut this to do this, but I don't need to because I've actually got some styrene strip which is 20 thou thick, so I'm going to use that rather than cut this up, because obviously strips are great for this, but if one day down the line I need a great big piece this big, then a strip is no good for me. So I'm going to use the strips for this and save this for the bigger stuff. Okay, so this is 0.5 wide by 0.5 thick by 3.2mm wide. So what I'm going to do is put the engine down there. We don't need it to be anything accurate here at all. So we just put that down there and then cut this roughly to length, just like so. Just like that. Job done. And then we can put that on there. And glue it down. In fact, I'm not sure if this is going to be any good because I don't think it's going to be wide enough because of the curve in there. I may have to use plastic card after all. Yeah, I can't unless I cut it in half. What we can do here is cut it in half on an angle. And then what I can do is put that one like that. So I just put a spot of glue on just to hold it in position, like so, and then this one can go that way, like so. So just run some glue along there. Give them a push together. In fact, I'm going to need to cut that on a different angle. Let's just slice that like that. What I'll do is take it off, slice that like that. There we go. Now that'll work. So yeah, if you're working with a piece of 20 thou sheet, you may as well just cut 8 strips and use the engine as a guide. But as I say, I don't want to waste my 20 thou sheet when I've got loads of strip. Many years ago, I was in Hobbycraft, and they had They were getting rid of all their evergreen strip and they were selling it all off, and it was like 20 pence for a pack of strips. And it was like normally sort of £3, but I just bought everything they had. So there we go. We just cut an angle on there, and then we'll cut an angle on there, so they'll go together like so. So that can go on there. So I'm going to put some glue on here first. So that can go on there like that. Then we'll run some glue down in behind it, and then that one can go like that. Put some glue on first just to hold it there. There we go. Then we can put that down on the bench, give it a push, make sure it's all seated down, and you really want to make sure it's glued down. Make sure you haven't had a dry joint or anything, because the worst thing is you start sanding it and it falls off and you're back to square one. So there we go. Now if we trim the front off of these now using our cutters, we should be able to see that when we put the engine together. What have I done with the rest of the engine? Where did the other half of the engine go? Hello? Where did that go? I swear to you guys, I really am losing it. I found that in the drawer where I keep my plastic strip. So yeah, lost it. So they've gone together, they'll go together like that now, roughly. And then this pod maybe now will fit better. Yeah, it's a slightly, we need to sand somewhere. You'd be better off with sort of 10 thou plastic card, but then that may not be quite thick enough. So yeah, in fact, well, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but we're going to have to let that dry before we can do anything else. So what I'm going to do now is go on and do this to the rest. But you don't want to, I'll do one more on camera and then you can see what I'm doing. So we'll make sure we do, because the bottoms are all the same. Well, we've got the numbers on there anyway. So I'll tell you what we'll do, we will number them up. So this one's 2. Okay, and then we've got 3 and 4, and then that one's 1, just to save any issues, just in case. You can sometimes assume these parts are the same and then all of a sudden it comes and bites you in the ass. So and I don't know if any of you guys follow Doug's models. Great modeler, fantastic guy, really funny. I love him to bits. He's great, really good modeler, really good guy, and interesting videos and great how-to stuff as well. He's just put together a couple of videos about rants and stuff, and one of his pet hates is when people describe mixing paint as the consistency of milk. And I thought when I was watching it, I laughed to myself, because that's exactly what I said to you guys the other day. And he raised a very good point. He actually said, which milk? Because there's all sorts of different milks, and the different milks have different consistencies. So I do remember I did say one thing. The best thing to do, what he described, the best thing to do is when you're mixing paint for airbrushing is find where you're happy, because no one can tell you that this is the, there is no right consistency. There is a consistency that you're happy with and that you want to stick with. So basically just do that, and then as long as you're happy painting with it, then everybody's fine. But what I did say, if you remember, I said when you mix the paint up, put it up the side of the, if you're using a metal stirrer, you can look at the metal stirrer, which is what he said. But put it up the side, and you want it to kind of run down the side. You don't want it to chase down the side and literally just run away, but you want it to remain kind of translucent on the metal. Okay, so you want to be able to see the shiny metal through it, but you want the paint running away. You don't want, if you're mixing black paint, you want a sort of a trace of black, almost like a thick wash. That's what you're aiming for. So I can show you more about that when we come to do the proper painting on the fuselage and everything, the big stuff. We'll talk more about painting there, because we've got the bigger airbrush out as well for that. And we'll go through all that in detail again. But yeah, basically just brush it up the side and let it run down the side as milk would. Yeah. So, right, I'm going to cut some more of these strips now, just to show you one more. And, but yeah, if you haven't seen Doug's Models, it's a great channel. Really is good. And also, I don't know if some of you know, but Aussie Trekkie is back, it appears. He's put together a couple of videos. And in one of the videos, he's complaining about, which I thought was really good of him. I went out for him and put a video out for him and got him a load of new subscribers just before he switched off. And I sent him some stuff and I did him a good deal. And because he bought so much of it and the postage was so expensive. And yeah, he's gone on his channel now saying that my bulkheads don't fit. So please, if you do see that, they do fit and they don't interfere with the stairs on the Titanic kit. They're absolutely fine. So yeah, I wish people, before they comment about something when somebody's done them a favour, I wish they would kind of get in touch first and say, you know, this is what I've experienced, before they actually start saying things. Because you know, it's not very nice when you do someone a favour, when you try and help someone out, and they and then they start putting your products down, which is I just thought it was a bit off. That's just me being fussy, I expect, but never mind. So anyway, there we go. I know a lot of you are thinking, well, I put stuff down all the time, but the thing is, if I think a product is poor, not good, I will tell you I think it's not good. But if somebody in YouTube land said, here Nigel, I'm going to send you a free sample of my resin cockpit, you know, I'd like you to use it on your channel, and if I found there were problems with it, I would contact the guy and say, I've just used your cockpit and unfortunately you've got a problem with this, doesn't fit, sort of thing. Whereas if I buy a kit from Model Collect or HK Models, which I will never do again, HK Models that is, not Model Collect, then if I think it's poor, then I would just come out and say it, because they're a great big company. And it's, again, going back to Doug's Models, it's like he said on there, you know, a lot of people say you should be grateful. You know, somebody's produced a 32nd scale Lancaster and we should be grateful because it's, you know, it's all we've got. I'm sorry, no, it's £400 and it's a joke for £400, and the cockpit is a complete mess. It's got issues wrong with the wings. You know, I mean, the tail planes don't even go together properly. I did a video on how to put them together properly because they're not moulded right. You know, the engine intakes are the wrong, the air intakes for the oil cooler, should I say, are the wrong shape. The engines are too small. The tyres are a joke. I think the canopy glazing is too short. I don't think it's tall enough. And the way they've done the canopy glazing with the separate blisters on the side is ridiculous. And I put a comment about how basic it was when you compare it to, you know, when you compare the cockpit to, say, the Tamiya Mosquito, how basic it is. Someone said, yeah, but it's a great basis for adding adding aftermarket. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't buy a model for £400 expecting to have to spend another £300 on photo etch to get it up to a standard that it should have been in the first place. If I decide to replace a Tamiya Mosquito engine with a resin engine from Edward, then that's my problem. I mean, the Tamiya engines in the kit are absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever, in my opinion. I think they look great. So if I want to go and spend £50 or however much they are for Edward Brassin engines, then that's my lookout. Yeah, but Tamiya did a great job in supplying us with engines in the first place. But when I spend £400 on a kit and it's as basic as that one is, no. So that's my little rant over. There we go, that's all 4 of them done. So yeah, sorry about my little rant there, but some things do wind me up. The other thing that winds me up, it's like I've had somebody talk to me about, you know, this, I think I mentioned just now, somebody sent me an email about this kit being the best B52 out there for accuracy. And it does make you think, you know, when you got like Monogram back in the, you know, in the day, turning out all these 48 scale bombers, you know, the 17, the 29, the 52, not 48 scale, 52, but you've got the 17, the 29, the 25, the 24, 20, you know, all these fantastic bombers, and they're all pretty accurate. Shape-wise, they're all, I mean, they've got raised panel lines and stuff, yeah, but they're all really accurate. And then, you know, along comes HK models again with the 32nd Flying Fortress B-17. They had a beautiful masterpiece to work from, and they still got it. I mean, the nose is just a joke. It's absolutely... It's unforgivable that they produce a kit with a round nose when it's not round, it's flat on the top. And every single picture you look at of a B-17, you cannot ever think that nose is round. It's not round, it's flat on the top. So, you know, and then the other thing that kind of bugs me a bit is when people like Edward come along and they make an instrument panel that's incorrect to suit the kit. But it's like I said with my B-52 noses and that here, I've done these noses for the B-52 G's and H's, early and late. And I'm not saying they're dimensionally perfect. I've had to make them look right because you have to make them fit the kit. It's no good making something that's absolutely dimensionally perfect if it doesn't fit the kit. So it's got to be proportionally right. I mean, this is supposed to be 72nd scale. If it's 68th scale or 75th scale, so is that, because it's got to fit. So, you know, it's like when people talk about working from drawings and stuff, quite often not always a good idea because you could fall over. So, yeah, and it just really, really annoys me that we've got these fantastic kits out there, which is, you know, really accurate, good-looking, shape-wise, good-looking replicas of the real thing, and then kit manufacturers come along afterwards and get it all wrong. I mean, the wing on the Hobby Boss 32nd scale B24, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke, the way they've got it so wrong. I mean, I'm not rivet counting. I'm not going to say that, you know, that control stick's too far forward or there's one dial missing off the instrument panel. I'm talking about fundamental major shape issues. I'm talking about this rubbish, you know. That's how it should look and that's how the kit is. It's just, you know, it's just... But anyway, so... And I don't know how they get it wrong. And the thing that really, the last thing I'll say, the thing that's really annoying for me is when someone brings out a subject which is something large and expensive, like the Lancaster in 32nd scale. Because HK models have done one, no one else will, because there's no one's going to buy two. But then I've been proven wrong straight away because Wingnut Wings came up with one, but then Wingnut Wings have folded. So we're never going to see that one, I doubt, unless somebody gets hold of the moulds, because I know that I saw a built model at Telford in 2018, so the moulds must be out there, so maybe somebody will come up with, I mean, Meng have got the triplane, haven't they, so who knows. But anyway, this is a beginner's video, and I'm ranting about experienced modeler stuff, so sorry. Right, so that's our engines done. So what we need to do now is leave those for a good couple of hours to go off. If we try and start sanding them now, what will happen is you just make a white plastic moosh. And we obviously need to sand the outside edges. I don't think we need to worry about the insides. Certainly not around here. Probably we'll have to sort the tails out. And I think I might do a bit of thinning of the plastic as well in this tail area. Show you how to do that to improve the look. So we'll leave that there for now. And then we'll come back to it. So it'll be a couple of seconds for you, but probably 3 or 4 hours for me. See you in a minute. Bye. Right, here we go. It's the next day now, so these have all these have dried. I have a confession to make. I have realised just that after I've done the last few segments, I've had the camera kind of zoomed in, so if it's been a bit too close, I'm sorry. We're back to normal now. Anyway, and you may have also noticed on the last couple of videos I've done, was a bit of a change in the sound, and I've basically been experimenting with that mic I bought years ago from Amazon, or last year from Amazon, and basically it's just junk. It has a constant buzz in the background. I've had it running with the cables sort of well away from any other cables, and I still get this humming in the background, and it's just annoying. And then you get the odd sort of, you know, while I'm talking, you get a crackle in it or something. It's just obviously crap. So back to the ordinary iPhone mic now with no external mic connected. So anyway, and that's how this whole video has been, by the way. I haven't used the mic in this video, just in the last two, or three. So I've done one of these just to see what we're going to need to do, because I didn't want to be sort of going backwards and forwards on what I'm saying with what we're doing. So basically, as you know, I've got my engine halves marked up and numbered, so I'm going to keep them together. So there's 3 and there's 3 there. So we'll work on number 3. So if you remember, we glued this plastic strip on because when we put the nacelle on the engine, it was basically this was higher than the engine, so we've packed this out. So what we're going to do first of all is cut the ends off to get them flush, okay, because we don't want any obviously any plastic to interfere. And then we can get this sanding stick and just lightly sand over the front there, just to remove any flash all the way around the edges of these, which is to be expected on a kit of this age. Now the other thing we need to do obviously is align these engine halves like this I'm talking about. Oh, we also need to remove the pins for assembly, so we'll get rid of them, and then we can come along with our sanding stick and just sand this until we've got no ridges or lumps or anything on it, and get it all nice and flat. You will see sometimes people will say put a piece of wet and dry or emery down on the table and then sand on it like this. That's all well and good, but the trouble is if it's not glued down, as you do the sanding motion, you will kind of, if you can imagine, if I use this piece of tissue, you will kind of, as you push it over, you'll kind of wrinkle it up and you'll lift it. You see, as I don't know if you can see that, but as I'm pushing forward, it's lifting. So what you'll end up doing is putting radius on your part. So not always a good idea unless it's glued down with some double-sided tape. Not always a good idea. So there we go. So that's those done. So we've got rid of those little lumps and bumps and sanded that down. So now we can try this together. But the trouble is, we can't actually align it because we can't feel it. So what we need to do now, nice sharp blade, just come along around the edge and just trim away the plastic excess. Okay, keep the knife 90 degrees to the surface so you don't sort of undercut, but we're going to have to do some filling and blending anyway. But and then what we'll do is we'll actually scribe where because there is a seam here where the engine cover is open. You can see from this engine you've got the top one opens and the bottom one goes down, so there's a seam, and we're going to actually recreate that seam by scribing it. So I will show you a little bit of scribing on this kit, and just sand that so it's kind of flush. We're not after perfection at this point. Just trim away like so, and then just gently sand away, and then you're away. Okay, so sanding some material from there because I know that the 20 thou or 0.5 is too thick. Oh, the other thing we need to do, you can see here we've got this recess for the tail cone to go in. We need to slice that open. So what we're going to do is just go in with the knife on an angle and slice it all away. Like so. Just like that. And then we're going to cut. I think I'll use my cutters just to remove the excess on the inside, but we're going to be dealing with that in a minute anyway. We're going to do some thinning in that area. Okay, so put these together, just get them roughly positioned okay, make sure the front is flat, and then put the front on, and we can feel straight away that we've got pretty much a perfect fit. Now the other thing I'm going to do now is I'll turn the camera off to do this if the box is closed up. I'm actually going to dedicate these fronts to certain engines because there may be some variation in the actual height, so I might get it right for this one and then find that the other ones in the box are a slightly different height. So let me turn the camera off, get some other parts out, and we'll go from there. Right, so I've done that now. I've got these off, and they indeed are different. This one feels different to the other one I just used. So there is a variation. I mean, they've got these massive sink marks around the bottom which we're going to have to fill, so probably the whole size of them is sunk. So I put a 3 on the back of that one, so that one can stay with that one. Then we can do another one here, and then I'll do the last one off camera. So I'm just going to come around with my knife, trim the plastic away like so. Like that, give it a light sand just to remove the excess, and then I've already done the slots in that one, as you can see. So that's nice. So number four, remove the pins, give this a good clean up. Like that, there we go. And then we can come along and put those together. We've got some flash on the front of there, so clean that off. No doubt we've got flash on the front of there as well. So put those together, and then take one of these unmarked engine fronts, test fit that on there, and I can feel that the engine certainly on this side, it's higher than the nacelle. So yep, still a bit more to come off of there. So I'm just sand both sides. There's a slight step on this side, but there seems to be more. I'm actually biasing the sanding stick to this side. And as you can see here, I am actually going at it both ways, because all I'm doing is reducing down a piece of plastic card. I'm not after a finish or anything. Like I've just told you, in sanding those tanks, if you can get in the habit of just sanding in one direction, that's the best thing to do. But here we're not after a perfectly flat face, we're not after any sort of finish or trying to retain any shapes or anything. It's just getting the thickness down. So I can see now this side is nice, but this side has still got a step. It's also slightly wider, which is going to be a pain. And just as a matter of interest, let's try this one and see what this one fits like. Yeah, pretty much the same. Okay, right, so I've got a very slight step on both sides now. So if you have got plastic card lying around, what you might want to do is start with 10 thou plastic card, which is 0.25 millimeters. But bear in mind you may end up a bit too short then, so I think it actually requires about 0.3. Okay, so I can feel a bit of a step there, and I can't even push it up now. So what's basically happening is these lugs are preventing me from pushing that cowl up. So I'm going to cut them off. All they're there for is it's just a bit of an engineering thing to stop you putting together wrong, as I showed you. For me it was yesterday, for you it was a couple of minutes ago. So let's push it together so we get the gap. There we are. So now I can slide that up and fit it properly. So that's going to be number 4. So they can stay together as sets. And I'll go on and get number 2 done, exactly the same, and I'll come back and we'll glue something together. So now we're going to look at actually thinning out the rear of the engine. As you can see here, I've gone round and scraped and filed this one. If I show you this next to a standard unmodified one, you can see there's quite a difference, and this looks a lot more realistic. It's not very nice, it's a bit of a mess, this area. When the pylon goes on, it kind of leaves you've got this sort of horrible shape. It should be sort of circular, but as I say, we're building this out of the box, so we're not going to modify anything. But you know, it really could do with some improvement, and if I do another D from one of my other kits, then I'll certainly do some mods. So basically we want to do this now, because once we get these tail cones and we won't have the room. So what I'm going to do is first of all go around the top with a knife, but I'm not going to go all the way around. I'm just going to start from here and just remove some plastic, and I'm doing it on an angle because all I want to do is get a thin rear edge. I'm not after thinning out the whole thing. So yeah, so I just stopped there. I thought I heard a B-52 flying over. The B-52s are in Fairford at the moment, so I'm in Gloucester, so I'll probably see some. So last night I heard some action in the sky. I looked out and there was some sort of contrails in the sky in circles, like spirals. And then I got it up on the radar and I saw that the couple of Typhoons were out, a couple of Eurofighters, and they were refueling from a 330. And then a friend of mine sent me a news flash this morning. Apparently they intercepted an airliner or something. So yeah, interesting. So here we go. So we've scraped that out now. So now I'm going to take a semicircular file, and don't use a round file. You'll end up with a bit of a mess. You want, unless it's a big round file. And then we're just going to sand this and file it, sorry, and just get it so we get a thinned out, a slightly thinned out edge. Now you can see what I've done here. I've gone a bit thin there, but I've still got thick here. So I'm just going to sand away or file away here to get it kind of equal all the way around. And do the same on the other side. And then once we've done that, we'll do the same on the bottom. Now I'm just going to go over with a sanding stick because there's some flash on there. So we'll start from there. We'll just come around, just cut the plastic away, like so. Same on the other side. Up, up, like that. And then same again, we're just going to thin it out. In fact, I'll use the knife and take some more away from there. we've got that flash on there, which has got to go. And there we are. In fact, that was actually, it's actually a mismold. It looks like it's too short. A bit strange, but still. So there we go. So that's that done, and you don't need to see me do all of them. So I'll do the rest off camera, and then we'll look at getting these things put together. So let's get one of these engines assembled then. So we'll start with number 4. So we've got 4 there, we've got 4 there, and 4 there. So Jess is going to start barking. Here we go. So these tail cones, they go in here. So they're just going to sit in there like so. And don't worry about getting them straight or anything at the moment. Just put a drop of extra thin in there. Let that capillary around, that'll just hold it in place. And then we'll do the same on this one. Just put a drop in there. And then kind of lift them so they're sort of in the right place. And then we can put our engines together and make sure that those tail cones go into the grooves. Now we want to basically get this down like so. Okay, and we're going to come in here with this file. I'm going to use a file to push those over. In fact, we'll get these glued together first. So we know they're okay with the fit on the nacelles. So plenty of glue in here. Make sure it's a good solid joint. Here we are. Just push that down there. There we go. As you can see, they're not really very nice at all, these engines. They're the correct size and shape and everything, I believe, but for fit and finish, they're not really as nice as the AMT ones. The Model Collect G engines are not the best. So there we go. So we'll just have a quick check on the fit here. And we're all good to go. So there we are. So we can put that one to one side, let it dry, build up another one. So we'll take the base, take our tail cones, drop of extra thin in there, drop of extra thin in there, so that's that done, and then we'll slot these together just like so. And what I'm doing is push them down on the bench to make sure the fronts are level. Now you can see this one here, the tail cone hasn't gone in the slot properly, so lift that out, bring it back down, try again. They're falling apart on me. Just get some glue in there just to tack it all together. You can see the top is wider than the bottom, but we'll deal with that with some sanding. I can see us losing all the detail on these engines. There is some raised detail, there's also some scribe detail, but it's really down here in the middle, so as long as we can avoid sanding in that area we should be okay. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it, as they say. Get some cement in there. sure those joints are good and solid. And if you wonder why I'm shaking the bottle every time I put the glue in, it's to make the glue splash around and run up the brush. There we go. And on the subject of the glue, I'll just check this front here. Yep, that's all good. I'm just going to push that tail cone over into its slot properly. And then run some extra thin around the top half of it, because they're hardly touching anywhere. They've got no real good contact in there at all. I also want to make sure they're square, make sure they're pointing directly backwards. You don't want them pointing out at an angle. And I'm just going to check these as well. There we go. Happy with that. And on the subject of the glue, I'll just show you something quickly for the beginners out there. There's a commonly known tip you can use, and if you, this comes off quite easily, you can actually pull this out. When you actually get your glue, it's back in like that. You can actually pull it out a little bit, so you get your brush deeper into the glue, which is a good little tip. One other little tip for beginners I need to show you actually is when the glue is new, and I will do that in a second. I'll get a new bottle out and show you. But the other thing that's a really good idea, I've already done it on this one. These, you can see that white washer down in there. They often fall off, and it's a real pain. And the way to stop that happening is come in with a pair of needle nose pliers like this, and basically all you're doing is grabbing. You can see that there's a ring around the inside, and you just grab that and just give it a tweak. Okay, just like so. And what you're doing is deforming that ring, and then it holds that washer in so it can't fall out. That's a little tip of my own, but this one here is commonly known. One other thing I want to show you is with new glue. So I'll show you this quickly. This is a new bottle of Tamiya Extra Thin, and as you can see it's quite full. And the biggest problem with that is, I don't know if you can see on this brush, but basically that is absolutely dripping in glue. So be very careful when they're new. What I tend to do is, like I can do now, take my old bottle, which is stuck in my holder, okay, and what I can do is take some of this glue and top that one up, and I'll use a pipette. So just top this one up so that it's only sort of, I don't know, half an inch, 3/4 of an inch deep in the bottom of the bottle, and that way you won't get the issue with that flooding. Okay, now we can push that up in there because it's done now. And now you can see that when I take that out, I've got a good lot of glue on there, but it's not all the way up the shaft. Okay, so that's another little tip for you. And these bottles, never throw them away. You need them for all sorts of different bits and pieces. So there we go, more tips. Just a simple little change to the kit you might want to do just to improve things. When you actually look at it like this, I mean, you'll have the engine front is covered up, but you've got this vast open space you're looking at down in here on the sides. So what I've decided to do is kind of fill that in. It should be sort of a full round exhaust in there. So if you take a piece of plastic card, like I've done here, you can see that when you actually put the pylon on, you haven't got that vast open space you're looking. It's just something there. So piece of plastic card, 15mm long, 6mm wide. Just slice that across there, and then another 6mm here, another one here. It's sort of 6 or 7. It's nothing precise. It doesn't have to be perfectly square or anything. Okay, let's just make a score, snap them off. Alright, and then you can just drop that in there. And then I'm using my file here to manipulate it. And I'm going to get it to sit. I'm going to get it to fall through. I'm going to get it to sit across the back of the tail cones. So, I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm sure you can have a good guess. And then I can hold that in place. Just put the file down on there. And then rest my finger. This is because the camera's on, it's playing up. I've just done the other one in about 2 minutes flat. So hold that in place like so. Oh, come on. I can't believe this. So what I'll do is I'll try and get some glue in here first. Obviously, if you haven't built yours yet, it's going to be a lot easier if you do this before you... Look at that, that just fell perfectly into place. So what you can do now is come along with a paintbrush. Like so, get a paintbrush in your cement, and then you can drop some glue down behind. This paintbrush is absolutely solid, I don't know what's got in it. So we can just drop some glue in there from behind, just to get that in place, and then there you go, you've got, it's just to stop it, so when you're looking at it, you're not just looking into a vast open space. And if you really want to go to town, you could make up like a little round part and put it around there. That would look much better. But you know, bearing in mind this is a build for beginners, we don't want to go start down the master scratch building route, because that's not what this is all about, remember. So just position that piece in there like so. And then get my paintbrush, get some glue on it, that's that in place, just like that. And then the last one, get it in position. There we go. That's that in there. Job done. Now we're going to consider fitting these nacelles onto the front of the engines. So once the glue has gone off, we can basically sand the front, get them nice and flat, so we get a nice face to glue on. Now on the back of these, I've actually removed all those pins, because what I found is, rather than helping them locate, they're a great idea to stop you putting them upside down, but rather than helping them locate, they're actually preventing me from fitting them properly. So without them there, I can sort of slide this around and fit it wherever I want and get the fit right. Now, bearing in mind, we're going to have to do some filler work on this, because they got sinking across the top, they got sinking in the bottom. We're going to blend all that out, and we're probably going to end up losing all this raised detail on the bottom. Now, it's only on the bottom there is any raised detail, so it's not too much of a shame. So I'm going to position that in the best way I can, get it as good as I can. And then once it's in place, we'll take our extra thin. I'm just going to put a drop in each side, just to kind of tack it in place. And then we can check our fit. We want to make sure that we've got it equal about top and bottom, side to side. And then when we do sanding and filling, it'll all be nice and even. If you have it all one way, it's going to look odd. believe me, it will look odd. Now, to be honest, I think here I could have sanded a bit more off of that strip because they're slightly too thick, but that's all right, I can sand them down. Okay, so that's that on there. So I'm going to go around now, all the way around, and get a good solid glue joint on there. That'll give us a good basis to work with when we come to do our filling and stuff. So there we go, that's our number 1 engine done, which is our left outboard. Don't worry too much about gaps here because, as I say, we're going to be blending and sanding and filling and getting this all blended because it should be quite a smooth transition. You can see here we've got a huge sink under there. There's a bit of a step there, but you can, as you can see, the nacelle, instead of coming down at an arc, it's kind of coming down, and then it's almost like an S shape. It's straight there, it's straight there. It's a bit of a mess, so we're going to do some filler work and get that looking lovely. Obviously you want to concentrate on having the tops looking the nicest because that's the bit you're going to see. I mean, a model this size, you're not going to really look underneath it, are you? So there we go. So that's that one, and we'll find our number 2. Got our number 2 there. Sand over the front once again. A nice flat mounting. You can see there we've got an area where it's not sanded, so just get it all done. And the same, sand this back, didn't cut that nib off of that one. Sand, whoops, throw it across the room. Sand that one. And then that's going to go on like that. You can see we've got a gap here where it's not. These engines are in a bit of a state, to be honest. There's a bit of short shot going on, I think. And then we just go around with the glue. Not worrying about tacking it in place this time because I've realised that it's all a bit of a mess, to be honest. So we'll just get them together, and this will be our base upon which to start. I don't know if you can see it in the light there, but once again we've got like an area over here that's not sanded, an area there, an area there. It's just not flat at all. So that's our number 3, that's our number 3. Give that the sand. Hold that in place. And just run round with the cement. Give it a squeeze. There we are, that's that one done. And finally, number 4. Sand the front of that one again, that's not flat at all. Sand the back of this one. And there we are. That's all 4 engines done. So I think we'll call that a day for part 9. Then there's one more thing I want to show you before we go. If you remember, I put some Mr. Surfacer on these tanks. I put some along that joint where I had the super glue on the inside, and a couple of little marks where there were sprue connector points. So what we can do is come along with something like an 800 sponge and just lightly, very lightly sand. Don't go ploughing into it. You don't want to be changing the shape of anything. And all you're going to do is just remove the excess Mr. Surfacer and leave the Mr. Surfacer where it's supposed to be in the seam, or in the, you can see there's a drop there in a oh no, it was just, I thought there was a little sink mark there, but there wasn't. No pressure at all, just lightly sanding. There we go, and I got some on the top here as well. What you could do if you have got a larger area, this is a worn out 400 hard stick. Use a hard stick just to break it down. If you remember, I told you the soft one may ruin your shape. So then we just go in with the soft sponge afterwards. Okay, and then I'm going to get my 2500, just give it all a polish, and we can see there that we've got a Mr. Surfacer in the divot. So I would say now those tanks are good to go. Where's T'other? Here we go. I think once again I'll use the hard stick because it's got quite a bump in it. Just use the hard stick just to remove the majority. There we are. And then the 800 sponge. And as I said, don't forget, if you want to see all this, you know, working with lots of fillers and stuff on seams and where you go wrong, because I went wrong, go back and look at that fuel truck, R11 fuel truck I did a week or so ago. There we go. I'm happy with that. You can see we've got the Mr. Surfacer there in those 2 little divot marks. There's a tiny little bit there, and there's a tiny little bit just, well, there's hardly anything stayed in the back there. So that's our tanks done, nice and cylindrical, all seamless, job done. So we'll call that a day for part 9, and I will see you for part 10, where we will be probably starting to look at these tailplanes, fin, and doing the fuselage. I want to let all the glue go off hard on here before we start attacking this with any fillers or anything, and then we'll fill all around these nacelles, we'll blend all that in, get it all nice and smooth, re-establish some scribe lines on here to make it like it's got opening engine panels, like you got the scribe line there, and go from there. So thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and thank you to all those. I've got a couple of new people who've come on the Patreon and PayPal, so thank you very much to those, and thank you to all my existing donators, if you like. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all soon for part 10. Bye for now.